Welcome to Changing Suits. We're your hosts, Bal
and Taj, discussing the latest news, views, and general life for us Western Asians.
Follow us on Instagram and Facebook, changing_suits, and subscribe so you never miss an episode. Hi, welcome to Changing Suits. My name's Bal.
And my name's Taj.
On today's episode, we wanted to celebrate our father and all the fathers out there, since we've got Father's Day coming up in the UK. Taj has just reminded me it's in the UK. Apparently it's not in other places. But anyway, let's celebrate all the fathers in the whole world anyway. So, Taj, what's your view on, firstly, having a day like Father's Day? Do you think we should celebrate it?
Half and half. I'm going to contradict myself, which I do quite often. I think, one, it's very commercialized, and it's a reason to go out there and spend your money. Why do you need a day to remember to celebrate your father? But then the same could be said about, why do you need a day for anything?
Yeah, but then you'd never celebrate anything. You'd be like me. We don't celebrate anything.
You'd save a lot of money.
Sounds like your husband's talking. But honestly, like on a serious note, yeah, I get what you're saying. But again, when else do you celebrate anyone? On birthdays, for example, you're like, yay, it's your birthday. You wouldn't do that every day, would you?
Yeah, but
the only other day.
Do you think it's getting to the extreme where you're celebrating? Like there's a day for everything.
Why? How much do you celebrate? Because we've got a really bad habit in our family where we don't celebrate anything, which I've always thought is not a great thing. I think these are happy occasions. By the way, we are very good at the sad occasions. We don't have a problem with not celebrating.
We all get together for them.
We do get together, and I remember once we had got together, it was someone had passed away. I was like, well, we'll see you on the next one, and that's literally how we are. So I don't agree with that. Like, it's not right. Anyway, going back, we are going to celebrate. Well, sort of. We'll say Happy Father's Day. That's usually the extent of our celebration.
But saying that, I do buy my husband gifts from the kids. So I do fall into going for the commercialized. I did tell you I was going to contradict myself. You can't say I didn't.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's pretty much a normal thing for you, isn't it?
Oh, that's not nice.
Oh, it's all right. It's me as well. It's not, yeah. Okay. And does Pardeep like it, the fact that you are buying a gift for him, the kids?
Yes, but as long as it's not anything technical, because he'll return it and get a better value on.
Yeah, that's one thing I hate.
It's really annoying.
Do you know what? That's a good point. Have you bought a Father's Day gift?
No, I know what I'm going to buy this time. It's a father and son shirt that we saw in Marks and Spencer's.
What is this, a promo for Marks and Spencer's? You don't have to, and this is the barcode for it.
I'm not trying to promote Marks and Spencer's, but I have spent much of my time there over the last couple of years.
Okay, so you know what you're getting from your son, at least. Cool.
I'm not going to buy another thing. Waste of money.
See, there's one thing I always get, which is a fridge magnet of Sook and the kids.
Oh, I might do that actually. That's a good idea.
I do that every year, and it's a really nice idea. So we put it on the fridge, and you can see I remember it was 2016, just before my daughter was born, and it's a picture of Sook and
your son.
Yeah. And then the next year, it's both of them, and it's quite nice. It's a nice thing.
I might do that. That's a good idea. That's sorted.
Well, I always wanted that as well, and I said this on the Mother's Day one. I don't tend to celebrate birthdays, and I'm not really fussed about birthday gifts, but I do want a Mother's Day gift. I don't know why. It's just...
See, I'm not about gifts that much at all, to be honest. I'm more about having something to remember. So, I don't know, or an adventure or something, just going out so you remember the occasion. Because with a gift, you just put it away.
But why? How often do you go out for an adventure?
Not that often.
So that doesn't work really, does it?
No, but when we do go, it's nice, and I remember those occasions.
I wanted to talk about, obviously, our dad, who's had a massive influence on our lives, right?
Yeah.
What would you say? What's your Your favourite thing about Dad and the worst thing about Dad,
Um,
and then we'll forward it on and let him know to stop certain things.
so my favourite thing about my dad is there's too many to choose from, but
Oh,
he's pretty much been, well, obviously, well, not, he didn't have to be there, but he's pushed us to do everything, like to the point of everything. Do you remember when he used to wake us up? I think it was 6 o'clock in the morning to get up and do yoga. Oh
yeah.
God, that was hell. But we did it.
That's because you wouldn't leave us alone and just like get up, get up.
Art,
Oh my God, please let
art.
me go.
And to be honest, I use those words, the same thing with my kids as well. Utto, utto, otter, otter.
Yeah. I used to do that. You know when I used to fall asleep on the sofa?
It's utto, 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 utto.
Yes.
That's it.
Oh my God, yeah, I say that as well. I didn't realise. Yeah, I do say that.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
do that as well.
That's so funny. I didn't even think
Because
about
it's
that.
really annoying for the person that goes to sleep, but it's really fun for the person that's saying it.
Completely. And I'm usually the one that's asleep, so I hate that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so annoying. Okay, so that's one thing you hate about the fact that Dad used to do that. I do.
But
So
no, he's just been obviously there. Not why do I keep saying obviously? Because not every father is there, but he's been there through thick and thin. I think Mum was more the get the meals ready and everything like that, but Dad was more the drop us off and get things done and push us. For example, push you into becoming a counsellor.
yes.
I don't think you would have got off the sofa if we didn't push you, to be honest.
No, I agree. I mean, growing up, I think there was always a thing where everyone, because Dad looks a bit scary. He does. Like everyone on the outside would be like, "Oh my God, you guys must be really scared of him." And obviously, he's your dad, so like, there's going to be a certain amount of fear, but it wasn't like that. Obviously, he's not actually that scary. You can have a laugh with him. You can have a serious conversation with it, but there is a lot of respect there.
I think, when we were younger, there was that bit, there was the fear. He didn't used to hit us, but his level of his voice, if he was angry, that was enough to scare us.
Well, it wasn't his voice; you could just tell from his eyes.
Oh yeah, his eyes, that's right. But and the level or tone of his voice. But
Yeah,
then I think that's grown into respect.
mm. Yeah, I agree with
And
that.
I think I should do that with my kids, to be honest. I don't think it was scare as in traumatize you kind of scared, but scared as in you shouldn't do things wrong kind of scared. Like even till this day, if I do something wrong, I don't want my dad to find out.
Yes, which we've said a few times. I had the same conversation with Suk today actually about something, and he's like, "I'm going to tell your dad,"
That's what I get from my husband as well.
which is really funny. And again, it's not. Yeah,
It's not a
it's not.
scared thing, it's more a respect thing. You don't want to let him down.
Plus, he'll just keep going on about the same point over and over again till the point where you're like, "Okay, I'll just listen to what you're saying, just to."
But I think that might be an age thing where he keeps repeating the same thing.
Yeah, I think it is an age thing, and he's going to be glad that we're saying that he's old, even though he's trying his best to stay young.
I think he's younger than us.
Well, yeah,
But growing up, Dad was the head of the household and is in quite a lot of families, the father figure is the head of the household. Why
yeah.
is that?
I don't know. I mean, I think it comes down to the whole
Cultural thing.
not only cultural thing. You tend to find that in a lot of places, even outside of the South Asian community. It's usually the man that tends to be the head of the household. I mean, not in every case, um, but the person that's most vocal, the most not strict, but the rule maker.
Is that because there's a concept of the man brings home the bacon, as in vegan bacon or vegetarian bacon in our case?
Mm. It is a rule. I think it is just the person that makes the rules. I mean, Mum would have a go at us about most things, because and I see it happening even now in with my kids, where I can say the same thing a million times. Suk says it once, and the kids will listen.
Yeah.
It's not. I just yeah, but I think I'm a bit flaky with a lot of my rules. That's the problem. So that's my fault.
So one of the things that Mum used to say when we didn't listen to her, what did she used to say? Do you remember?
wait till your dad comes home.
But you say,
Or,
go on.
wait, how do they say it in Punjabi? I've forgotten.
You've forgotten how to speak Punjabi.
Wait, let me think. मैं तेरे पे ਨੂੰ ਦੱਸਣਾ ਆ.
That's
Something like that?
it. And to
Yes.
be honest, I say the same thing. I don't say in Punjabi, I say in English, wait till your dad gets home.
Well, to be fair, he works from home most of the time, so that doesn't tend to be a
Or
problem.
actually, it's more like, wait till he comes downstairs. I'm going to tell your dad.
See, I agree. I use the same thing. If they're annoying me, I'll be like, I'm going to tell your dad, and then they may or may not listen to me.
So, for example, we say, oh, wait till your dad comes downstairs, because obviously quite a lot of people are still working from home while we are. So is it our fault that we make it as in that the father is the authority figure, the decision maker?
I don't know. I feel like it's just fallen into that role. It was never meant to be like that with me. I wanted to be I wanted to be that strict person that the kids listen to straight away, but they've spent so much time with me. They just get sick of me talking and telling them to do things. So it just turned into that. And as soon as I say, "I'll wait to," and that's the first thing I do think, like, why do I need to say, "I'm going to tell your dad"? It's ridiculous. Like, what? Who is he? God? I don't know.
Well, that's yeah. And also, why was it that a lot of people in our generation, our fathers were, and it still is now, that they were very strict, as in, you can't go out, you can't do this, you can't do that. What is it? The reason? Do you think?
Do you know what? I mean, I was going to say this earlier. I think in regards to those rules, yes, there's certain rules where we felt like, no, they were too strict. Being from the Asian background, and I know not everyone went through this, even with Asians, a lot of my friends didn't have this, where they were happy, their fathers were happy for them to go out, where we had it slightly more restricted, shall I say.
I'd say
But
traditional.
traditional, fine, traditional. But I've found as I've grown up, in regards to certain things, I get why those things were said to us. Not only about not going out, just general things as we were growing up. Like do your homework, for example. At the time, you're like, oh my God. Whereas now, with our kids, we're like, well, no, the reason that we want them to do it is because we want them to get a better job and have more opportunities, which you won't get when you're a child, right?
There was a case of don't talk to boys as well, and our older sister took it to the point of that you shouldn't talk to boys at all, and she didn't
Ever.
used to talk to boys at all. So this is again a perspective thing, which we always like to go on about perspective.
Yeah.
But why do you think that rule was there? And it happens now as well in South Asian community. Quite a lot of fathers will say that they don't want their daughters to speak to the opposite sex. Why is that?
Because it comes down to that whole thing of once you get down that line, then you'll do the whole boyfriend girlfriend thing, and whether it's right or wrong, whether you should be doing it, and all that sort of conversation. I mean, I don't completely agree with that. Like, you should be happy to talk to the opposite sex, and it's not just girls doing it; it's also the other way around. A lot of guys go through the same thing as well, right? So it's not just one way.
Yeah,
But yeah, I
yeah. I
think.
mean, like for example, the sons are said not to talk to girls. Yep, it's the other way as well. But why is that? And why do we continue doing that? Shouldn't we say,
But I don't agree. Do we continue doing
yes,
that?
we
I
do.
don't think that's true.
Yes, we do.
How?
There's been cases of even with our husbands where they've said, oh, they don't want our children to talk to the opposite sex
No, I haven't had that.
or play.
No. No, I don't
Yes,
think so. When?
there is.
No, I don't agree. I've got the exact opposite problem where I'm like, I think my daughter's playing with the boys too much. She needs to get more girly. I might have to start painting her nails or something. Like,
Oh,
seriously.
that's a bit
Yeah,
sexist.
I know. It's true. She doesn't want to wear dresses, and I want her to, and I never used to. Like, it's my fault. I never used to, but I really want her to. Not that I'm going to push her to, but I'm trying to push her to.
Why also is it that the
No,
man?
no, wait a second.
Go
Go
on,
back to that question.
go on then.
So I'm saying I don't agree. We haven't had that thing of we don't want her to talk to boys or my son, to talk not to talk to girls. Are you having those conversations at home?
My husband he's not pushing it, but he's like, oh, does she need to, kind of thing. And I know that there are some South Asian families where they say that, but I don't. I'm like, don't worry, just play
But
with.
why? Why is he saying that?
Again,
You would
they don't
have.
want that thing of coming into the mind of go like having boyfriends and girlfriends and stuff like that. That is still a thing.
Oh, I didn't know it was a thing. Maybe my kids are too young that we haven't
It
hit
might
that
be,
stage. I don't
yeah,
know.
yeah, because my daughter's now 10 years old.
But I don't agree with that because I think you have to talk to the opposite sex. You have to talk to different communities, different cultures, because how else are you going to raise your awareness? I don't. It's wrong. I don't think we should be having those conversations.
I agree. We're on the same page. It's not often we're on the same page, but hey, we've done it.
Mm.
So why do you think that a man is seen that they have to be strong? As in, if anything happens, I don't know why I always go back to funerals. Maybe I'm a really morbid person, but if you don't really
Yeah,
see that
you are.
many men or fathers crying because they have to stay strong.
Well, it's that whole thing that the man is strong and the women are emotional. That's something that has always been, and it's not just our culture and community that has that, right?
No, I agree. And but I do feel sorry for men, is in it something that does affect, again, which we don't talk about enough, is mental health.
Yeah.
As
I
in,
mean, this was one thing, especially for our parents' generation. Men didn't talk about it. I mean, I think we're very fortunate. I suppose it's really interesting actually thinking about it. The We do have depression in our family, for example, but I can only think of women, the women in our household that suffered depression, and not the men. But why is that? Is that because they never discussed it? I don't know. But even now, think about it. Like, granddad was a happy-go-lucky guy. Dad seems alright. I've never asked him about it. He seems okay. I can't think of anyone that.
but
Can
I
you?
think in the South Asian community that there's quite a high number of mental health issues anyway for females, because they are suppressed in so many different ways. There's so many expectations from them, and so many things that the community expects.
But then it works both ways. We've mentioned it a few times. Men have expectations. Yes, they're not the same as the women's,
I
but
do,
they
I do
do.
think they have expectations, but not to the degree I feel as that women do. For example, the woman has to move into the in-laws' house.
Yeah, but you ask a man, and we've had this conversation before. There is that mental stress of
So, okay,
balancing.
then why do you think it's that women that have more, like you've just said? I'm not saying that our family is
I
the.
think it's I think it's just based on our household. We've just been in that situation, but I know that
There are
the
men out there that have had
the exact
depression.
opposite, exactly, and that haven't spoken about it, especially in the first generation that came here.
But again, I don't think it that like the mental health issue is still in our generation. Yes, it is starting to be talked about more, but I still don't think men still talk about
Yeah,
their
no,
feelings.
I agree with that. I agree, which is why you need people from the South Asian community who are very open about it. I mean, it's surprising sometimes especially when we're having these conversations with our guest speakers and they are openly saying these things. And it's like, wow, you're saying it. Perfect. This is the conversation we should be starting. Okay, again, we've diverted a lot. So going back to it, Father's Day. Um, I went and saw mum and dad this weekend, actually, that's just passed. And I was only there for the day, but on Saturday morning, me and Dad did sit down and we were discussing some, you know, important things about other people because we were having a bit of a gossip session. Um, but it was really nice. So we spent about 20 minutes, half an hour. It was just me and him talking, and he was explaining the situation from his perspective and why. I know the conversation came about divorce, for example, and the impact it has on kids. So that was the conversation we were having. And it was just so interesting. It was such a nice conversation, not that subject, but the conversation was nice because I was listening to his advice and this we've been very fortunate where we have been very open with dad and having these conversations and listening to his advice, and he is very forthcoming in his advice. Um, And the nice thing is that he said something where I didn't agree with him, and I said, "Well, from a girl's perspective, X, Y, Z," and he was open to listening to that point of view. Whether he agreed or not, I don't know. We didn't get to that point for me to ask, but it was a really nice conversation, and it just reminded me of the good old days. And we don't get a chance to do that very often.
So
So
one
yeah,
thing with him as well, he came from India, and when he came over to England, his views were very Eastern, like the old Eastern, not now because things have changed a lot.
strict Eastern,
Strict,
traditional
traditional, yeah, they're the words. But now he's become more open-minded. Why do you think that is?
experience.
Of what?
Well, having three daughters is never easy for anyone, especially in the Asian community.
Why
But
is that?
well, we know. I mean, we've been through divorces in our household. We've had illness in our household, um, and all of these things. I mean, it's life, isn't it? It's experiences. If you're not learning and evolving, then you're just stagnant,
Mm.
and that is not a good place to be. And which is what causes a lot of problems in households where people aren't happy to adapt to the situation because we're in 2022. You have to adapt, and he's come from India to England. Things are different here. People's mindsets are different, so he had to change.
Well, yeah, the mindsets of the people that came from India in his generation, but now it's completely different. Things have changed in India and Eastern countries, as in they've evolved as well, as in their traditions have changed.
Yeah, but we're still in 2022. Like I said, it doesn't matter where you are, you have to evolve. Life's moving on, people are moving
But
on.
not everyone's like that. Not everyone has the openness with their father and can discuss situations, can discuss about, I don't know, divorce, periods,
But
whatever.
I think we've been really lucky because I know that other relatives have actually said where they didn't feel like they could talk to their own father. There was that respect with dad where they could sit down and his opinion um, was respected and listened to.
One thing that I found, I was speaking to him last week, it was about mammograms we were discussing, and I was just asking my mum, I was about to ask her when she had hers.
She's just had
I
hers
know
last week.
the day
Yeah.
that I was going to ask her, she had just come back from having one. And I was just saying that I needed to book one for my mother-in-law. She hasn't had one. And Dad was like, "Oh, that's really important to have. It's so important. Make sure you book it." And I was like, "Wow." But then I thought, okay, there's a reason behind this because we have had people in our family that have had breast cancer, and he wasn't. There was no inkling of embarrassment of saying you need to book it, get it done.
But then that's because, again, it goes down to experience because obviously our boy had breast cancer.
Yeah,
So he knows, well, it's his sister, so he knows that it's really hard and it's so important that these things are checked. And again, comes down to why is he so open in discussing this? Because of experience. What he's been through, what his family's been through, right?
yeah. I think experience changes everything. With our granddad, he was a completely different character. He was a very funny person. As in he'd watch Bhangra. He'd do everything opposite to what our dad would.
Hmm.
But just thinking about him, yeah, we just laugh because you can just see the smile. Remember the smile on his face and stuff like that.
See, we were talking about him this weekend as well. So I don't know if you remember, but do you remember before he passed away, there was that picture of that girl.
Yeah,
So my cousin was discussing it because they were having a conversation, granddad and my cousin, who's obviously a lot younger than him, but he actually said it this weekend of, oh, I remember when he saw that, and he goes, I'm going to frame that and put it up in my room.
oh God,
Yeah, no, he was. I mean,
chilled.
even when we were discussing it this weekend, he was different. He was a genuinely just another level of brilliant.
Well, I think the best thing for me was when the park gates had closed and all his friends, all old, thought, okay, how are we going to get out of there? And they all climbed the park fence,
Yeah,
isn't it? And you're like,
yeah.
can you imagine some old, like, there must have been about 6, 7 of them.
Yeah.
climbing over
They
the
were getting,
fence.
they were trying to get through the gaps as well. They'd try and get through the gap between, yeah. He was definitely a character, and that's why, yeah, everyone remembers him. What has it been? 11 years, 12 years now?
Well, we're basing this on how long I've been married. So
Yeah,
12
we are.
years,
12 years, there we
because
are.
he shortly died after I got married. Probably because he missed me so much.
Didn't you come over when he
Yeah, I did the day he died.
There we are. So anyway, we'll move on swiftly. Okay, so what's one thing that has annoyed you about Dad, though?
I've said it already when he keeps repeating stuff.
Mm. I'd say, and it's going to be me, because how much he pushes. And again, looking back, I do the same thing to my kids. How much he pushes me to doing things. Now, yes, at the time you're like, oh my God, you're driving me crazy. Looking back, I get why he did it. Still drove me crazy. To the point where me and him would be having arguments. He would be my person that I would be fighting against if I was annoyed. And he took it. He took it really well, actually, to be fair. He wouldn't argue back if he knew I was angry. He'd do it the next day.
Still does that.
Yeah. The other thing that's really interesting, actually, is now obviously he's retired, and he worked very hard. He did night shifts for how many years? I don't know, 15, 20 years. But I was going to say there's a lot of respect there, because even when he'd do his night shifts, he'd come home, eat something, and then exercise, all before we'd even have woken up. And then he'd do his bath. And all of it, like I said, all before we had woken up. So there's always that thing in him of, I've got to stick to this routine, because if I don't, I'm going to be old. And he's still got that now.
But isn't it funny? Again, quite a lot of the people in his generation, they've worked really hard and they've built the foundations for their kids for us to carry on and be not like strapped for cash, not what do you call it? What would you say? Not running around having to go, like headless chickens. But they've worked very hard, people that have come over.
But this is the thing. I mean, a lot of people in our community do that, which isn't seen by, I suppose, the communities outside of the South Asian community, or I suppose in England, right? It's not the norm. But then, and this is where it always turns really interesting, because we have a go at desi parenting, and we've discussed this desi parenting. But there's one thing you can't fault, and that's the love that they have for their kids. And not that other communities don't have that, but it's the fact that they will put themselves at the back of the line just to make sure that the kids are okay. Even till this day. I mean, I remember when I had an interview. Do you remember this? I think I had the interview in Leicester, I think it was. And he had come back from a night shift, and I had never driven on the motorway, right? And so he's knackered, obviously, from work. He's done, a 16-hour shift, whatever. And he's like, do you want me to come with you? And at first, like, oh, crap, like, you come from night shift. But yeah, can you come with me? So he did come with me, and he went to sleep in the car whilst I'm in my meeting for the whole day. And, like, there's, respect to that. I mean, he put himself, for my needs. He did that. And I always remember that, because that's a tough one. He literally slept in the car the whole day waiting for me. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah. I mean, he's had to do a lot with all of us, and he's put himself out for a lot. I can say for me, he used to drive me to so many different appointments.
We can have a go at the whole desi parenting and being strict with certain rules and doing this, but the love was there. And the only reason we have this opportunity of doing this podcast and putting our views forward is because of what our parents put themselves through, so that we could have this opportunity to do this, right?
Agreed. Completely, 100% agreed.
But then again, it always comes down to, was that a good thing for them? Because now they're in a situation where perhaps they can't do, they're retired, but they can't do the things that they wanted to do, because their mindset was always, well, work hard for our kids, make sure they get married. And then when we retire, we will be traveling the world, which they are not able to do.
Quite a lot of desi like a lot of people from the South Asian community, their thing was, we'll work hard, and we'll go back home. Now, quite a lot of them have said that, but haven't gone back. Why do you think that is?
Because they are now British citizens. I remember there was a date, I can't remember, it was a few years ago, and Dad goes, on this date, what, 25 years ago, whatever number of years ago, I actually came from India. And at that point, he had been in England, a British citizen, longer than he was an Indian. And so your life is here. Why would you go back? Things in India have changed. Why would they go back?
But their plan was always to go back. We'll build our foundations, we'll do everything. And you find that with quite a lot of people that...
Was it?
Yes. Where were you living?
Wait, where did they... Hold on. Where did they... I know what you're going to say, which is why I'm like, okay, I know you're going to be like, oh, where did you... don't remember anything. But did they say that? I don't remember.
Yes, they wanted to go back, have their kids settled here and go back. That's why everyone bought houses and stuff like that. But now people are starting to sell their houses back home because they know that their kids aren't going to go back. They're not going to go back and live there. So that's it. They're here. We're here.
But I don't know if that... I mean, I'm going to ask him tomorrow. I mean, let's get him on the line now, because I don't think that was the viewpoint. They knew that if their kids were here, why would they go back?
No, but that's now. That's okay. Now. That's what I was trying to... Obviously, you weren't listening for most of our youth. So now, if they were asked to go back, they'd be like, no, all our family is here. What's to go back for?
Yeah.
But I suppose...
Again, yeah, it comes down to age and experience, doesn't it? I mean, yeah, they were saying it, the same thing I was saying earlier,
yeah,
right?
That was their plan, but obviously things change in life.
We scuppered his plan.
But quite a lot of people from the South Asian community, the older generation, have stayed with their kids because they want to grow older with their kids, not go back home.
But also the conditions in the UK are a lot better than they are back home anyway. And we say back home as in India being back home, but obviously it's not. This is home. Because, I was having this conversation now. I mean, as they get older, they're going to need more help and more needs. And, regardless of how, whatever you think of, the government that's in power, not right now, but just generally, there are a lot more benefits of being in the UK than there are.
Which they've earned because they have worked very hard.
Oh, 150%. Because it's not the same in India. They wouldn't be respected and wouldn't have, it's true. And that's why we're very lucky in the positions that we're in.
And quite a lot
can I just say, you're right. And that's a really important point, because, when you get, the racists saying, oh, they come here and they take our jobs and all that stuff. I mean, I think it's, our parents have worked very hard for everything that they are now. They're retired, the fact that they've got pensions, they deserve it. They worked bloody hard for it.
Agreed.
And I think that's along most of South Asians, which is why they've been so successful in wherever they've been, because they have worked so hard.
And quite a lot of people that have come from South Asia, from that generation, from our father's generation, they used to be pretty, like, they're very educated in the countries that they came from, but they had to start from the beginning here. So go to factory jobs and stuff like that, which our father had to do. He was well educated and he was a banker.
But do you know, the other thing that was interesting, actually, was when they did come here, they had to fight for their rights as well, didn't they?
Yeah.
And this is something I should actually, I'm going to sit down with him and discuss this a bit more, because this is the whole point of our podcast, isn't it? Fighting for our rights and raising awareness. And this was something that they were doing when they came to the UK as well.
Yeah.
Right?
In what sense were they doing that?
Well, Southall had the BNP coming in and go back home, that slogan, isn't it? And I remember he was telling me when we were driving past, just randomly a long time ago, that there was a fire in a pub or something like that. And, they literally had to chase the racists out, as it were. So they've had it so hard, and we won't understand it because we are able to do things like this, like I said earlier.
Because we're petals.
We're petals. Yes, we are. A delicate one at that.
So this is something that's very relatable for quite a lot of people that have come from South Asian countries, that they've worked hard and we've got what we have because of them. And sometimes do you think we forget to appreciate it?
See, I think that's really hard because when people say, "Oh, appreciate every day," all that
You haven't
stuff, or
got
we
time
don't
to
know
do
how.
that.
What are you supposed to do to appreciate it? I mean, don't get me wrong. I think I genuinely am at a point in my life where I think if something's not making you happy, then why are you doing it? I genuinely do think that. Um, but how are you supposed to show that you're appreciating it? Ooh, the grass is so green. How beautiful.
But
That
do you
sort of
know,
thing.
like, when you go out for walks, you do, and you don't have technology and stuff like that. Do you start noticing nature and stuff like that, and you think, wow, that's
But
amazing.
that,
Look at the
but
way
that,
that bird's flying.
that's an age thing as well, though. Again, I really do think it's an age thing. I mean, before I, d- I wouldn't think anything. When we used to have sessions at work about well-being, it'd be like, oh my God, this is such a waste of time. Now I'm like, oh my God, this is so important. I don't understand why I never, I didn't appreciate this when I was younger because I was at a different stage of my life.
Mm.
Yeah. One thing I do want to bring up is obviously Dad's retired now. And, we made him retire kicking and screaming to the point. I think this is quite funny, actually. So his factory literally had to close down and relocate for him to leave his job. And I remember he was telling me a while ago, so he's now, or he was at that point, what, 70, what, how old do you retire? I think he was 68 or something, 69, coming up to 70.
Yeah.
And they had, those careers advisors coming in, obviously for most of the staff to discuss what they wanted to do next. Now he's way past
Careers
pensionable.
advice, yeah.
And they said, "Oh, do you?" And they had a laugh because he hadn't retired yet, and he should have done it a few years ago. They were like, "Oh, do you want to do your CV writing course?
Are you
Was it
for
CV
real?
writing or your career?" He totally did it. He's like, "Why would I not want to?
Did you
I'm
do
looking
it?
for." Yeah,
Oh.
he got careers advice, and I'm like, "Yeah." He was like, "So," and respect to that, he would have gone to another job. I mean, literally, he left that job kicking and screaming. And he probably would have relocated to wherever the company was as well, to be fair
It's
on
only because
him.
we talked him out of it and we're like, yeah, that's it. That's enough.
But I think he is enjoying not having to worry about that, and he does deserve that. But again, he is very regimental in the fact that he wakes up early. He does
Oh,
has
that's
his
what I was
routine.
going to say. Quite a lot of people of his generation, they start going out for walks in groups with
Yeah,
their peers. And that happens with the women and the men in the generation. Why does that happen?
because you've got a lot in common. You're at an age where, firstly, you've got nothing else to do apart from walk and make sure your legs are still moving, which I totally get because my joints are hurting now.
Gear
Um,
car.
I totally need to. I really need to eat gear. And also, they then exchange their experiences in life because the experience is going to be very similar, aren't they? We're from the same cultural background. They've got kids that have grown up here that are going through the same thing, and they're going to have similar interests.
Well, it was funny. I spoke to Dad the other day and I go to him, where have you been? He goes, to a funeral. I go, oh, bloody hell, not another one. He goes, well, that's it. That's all we've got coming up. If people our age are just popping off now, so we'll be going to a lot of funerals. And he goes, one day it'll be ours as well. And we're like,
Oh,
oh,
here we
God.
go. Bring out the violins.
No, we had a laugh about it.
He is very respectful for other people's time. So if someone's called him to a program, whether it's a funeral or anything else, he will go to it, regardless of if
The person's dead.
well, no, that it's an important time. I think anyone that's always, I think that's a subject that we will talk about at some point. If we haven't already, I can't even remember. And that's why a lot of people respect him and make an effort for Dad as well, because he makes an effort for them. And that's one thing that's always been the case. Dad has always forced us to go to things, even if we didn't want to, for that very reason.
Oh, that's another thing as well. We used to get dragged along to weddings and
Oh yeah, and Mum would
baths.
get dragged, and he'd make her go really early, and they'd be the first ones there, and they'd be waiting for hours before everyone else arrived. That used to drive her crazy. Yeah, sorry, go on, carry on.
That's it.
Okay.
There was that whole thing of you have to, and quite a lot of people used to do this as well, where you had to go to every occasion. All the family had to go, so you knew your relatives and everything.
Yes, yes. Now we know the names of most of our relatives, regardless of whether our relatives know our names. But hey, we'll leave that one there.
Right?
Okay. One thing that does make me laugh, and like I said, he goes out early and gets his 10,000 steps in. again, way before we've even woken up. And literally, I'm not kidding. Something that made me laugh was, you know, when so your husband, because obviously that is Pardeep and you know him as that, and our brother bought an Apple Watch and Dad had an Apple Watch as well. And I think you can connect the Apple Watches so that you could see how much exercise, your heart rate, and how many steps you'd done. The funny thing was, your husband and our brother were having a conversation as to the fact that they hadn't got the number of steps in,
That's
and
good.
they were literally competing against Dad without him being in the conversation. I turned around to them. I said, "You lot should be ashamed of yourself. That guy is 75 years old, and you're competing. You lot are in your 40s and 30s, and should be in relatively good fitness. And you go gym and do whatever you need to. But you're competing against a
Well, they
75-year-old."
thought that his watch was rigged somehow. They were like, he needs to measure his heart rate. Maybe it's that's what's making it go faster or something. Or maybe there's something wrong with his watch.
Slower, because your resting heart rate would be slower because you're exercising more. So your resting heart rate.
Okay.
Go on, carry on. Sorry.
Anyway,
Yes.
he goes, or there might be something wrong with the watch, and then I think they tried some tests out just to make sure that there wasn't.
It was so funny. I mean, yeah, they should be ashamed of themselves. But we always have a laugh. Although Dad does always bring out his watch and show us how many steps he's done and his heart rate and all that sort of stuff. I remember once I was like, wait a second, when I was looking at the map, I was like, it looks like here you fell asleep. And that was in the middle of the day. He goes, no, there must be something wrong with my watch. I'm like, well, that's not what the watch says. And then obviously there's a laugh because he obviously fell asleep on the sofa, which he tends to do a lot.
That's a very common thing as well. I was just going to say that quite a lot of, it might just be a dad thing. They fall asleep on the sofa. And then when you try to wake them up, they're like, yeah, I was just resting my eyes.
That's exactly what happened this weekend. Like, he put the most boringest thing, obviously politics in India. He put that on, and me and my sister are sitting there, and we're bored because it's just the most boringest thing to listen to. And he's fallen asleep behind us. And it's like, hold on, you're making us watch this, and you're not even watching it. He goes, no, I could hear it. I'm like, yeah, I'm sure you could.
Yeah, no, that's what I was going to say. That quite a lot of people can relate to, dads falling asleep on the sofa just in the middle of the day, just
and in the middle of a conversation.
Yeah, depending how boring it is.
Okay, so as we come to the end of the podcast, I just want to say Happy Father's Day to all the fathers, but more specifically, my father. I don't tend to say this very much, but I do love you, Daddy.
Oh my God.
I know I don't say it to many people, but genuinely I have. He is very much the one person I look up to, and I fully respect his opinions. And there's not many people's opinions I do respect, but his 150%. I've got a lot of time for him. How about yourself, Taj? Anything nice that you can say to Dad?
I was going to say, how can I follow on from that? I think pretty much, we owe our father a lot. I don't think we can ever repay him for the amount that he has done for us. And happy Father's Day in the UK. But yeah, we should celebrate our fathers, not just on Father's Day, but whenever we can.
And on that point, it's goodbye from me.
And goodbye from me.
Follow us on Instagram and Facebook, changing_suits, and subscribe so you never miss an episode.